Imagine waking up to a world without oceans. The familiar, comforting roar of the waves is gone, replaced by an overwhelming silence that feels almost unnatural. The salty breeze that once swept through coastal towns is now absent, leaving the air stark and dry. Picture standing where the water once was, a vast empty landscape stretching out before you, revealing what was hidden beneath miles of deep, mysterious blue. Seafloor trenches, ancient corals, and submerged ridges now lie exposed to the open air, a haunting reminder of what once thrived below. The absence of these oceans is more than just a strange sight. It's the beginning of a series of catastrophic events that would reshape the world in unimaginable ways. At first, it may seem almost surreal, a bizarre alternate reality, but then the reality of it all begins to settle in. Without the ocean's vast expanse, Earth has lost one of its most vital sources of stability. The sudden disappearance of all this water would disrupt life on a scale we can barely comprehend. The air would feel different, and within days, people around the world would begin to notice the changes in ways both subtle and severe. One of the most immediate and drastic effects would be on Earth's moisture levels. Oceans are responsible for a significant part of the water cycle. They evaporate, form clouds, and send rain to nurture plants, trees, and crops around the world. With the ocean water gone, this cycle collapses almost overnight. Plants deprived of rain would start to wither, leading to massive droughts everywhere. Imagine fields of wheat and corn drying out in record time, forests becoming brittle and vulnerable, and rivers and lakes drying up as they lose their primary source of replenishment. This abrupt drought would cripple agriculture, pushing humanity toward a food crisis as crops fail and livestock starves. The once abundant green spaces around the globe would start to disappear, leaving dry, cracked ground in their place. And it's not just the plants and animals on land that would suffer. Marine ecosystems would be completely destroyed. Every vibrant coral reef, colorful fish, and mysterious deep-sea creature would be wiped out. Without the stability and life-supporting nature of the oceans, marine life as we know it would vanish. The barren seafloor, now exposed to sunlight and open air, would become a desolate, lifeless terrain. Species that humans have relied on for food and industry would be lost. And the seafood industry, a critical source of sustenance and income for millions of people worldwide, would collapse overnight. But the lack of moisture is only one part of this unfolding disaster. Oceans play a key role in regulating the global climate, absorbing heat and distributing it across the planet. Their absence would send shockwaves through the atmosphere, leading to dramatic and unpredictable weather patterns. Regions that were once temperate might suddenly become unbearably hot or shockingly cold. Storms could become a rare but violent phenomenon, with intense droughts, sudden freezes, and dust storms sweeping across formerly lush landscapes. Extreme weather events that humanity has never experienced could become common, wreaking havoc on cities, towns, and natural landscapes alike. The disappearance of the ocean water would also set off a chain reaction with far-reaching consequences for the Earth's atmosphere. Methane, long trapped on the seafloor, would be released in enormous quantities. This potent greenhouse gas would rapidly contribute to warming the atmosphere, amplifying the extreme weather patterns already unfolding. The world would be caught in a loop of climate chaos, with rising temperatures, erratic storms, and catastrophic conditions becoming the new global norm. This hypothetical world without oceans is as terrifying as it is fascinating, a planet that barely resembles the one we know today. Each new consequence would impact life in ways we might never anticipate, leading to a series of challenges that humanity would be hard-pressed to overcome. And this is only the beginning. As the days and weeks roll by in this strange new world, the true depth of the ocean's disappearance reveals itself across continents. The drought has set in firmly, but this lack of moisture is just the tip of the iceberg. With the water cycle broken and no rains to feed rivers and reservoirs, freshwater supplies start to dwindle fast. City reservoirs drop to record lows, and once great rivers shrink to dry beds of cracked mud. Nations that were lush and green become arid, while deserts stretch further each day, encroaching on cities and farmland. People scramble to find water, digging wells deeper than ever before, but it's a losing battle. Every drop becomes precious, rationed, and protected as communities struggle to adapt. This crisis extends beyond just water. Without the ocean, the air itself begins to change in ways scientists had not predicted. Oceans naturally absorb vast amounts of carbon dioxide, acting as a buffer for the planet's atmosphere. With this buffer gone, the levels of carbon dioxide in the air begin to skyrocket, leading to what scientists term a carbon shock. The atmosphere feels heavier and more polluted, especially in urban areas where population density is high. Breathing itself becomes more difficult, and people report a constant feeling of fatigue, struggling to adapt to the shifting environment. Meanwhile, the loss of ocean-based oxygen production begins to impact air quality significantly. Algae and other marine plants are responsible for producing around half of Earth's oxygen. With these sources of oxygen gone, the balance of gases in the atmosphere tilts, leading to a slow but steady decrease in the available oxygen. This might not cause immediate respiratory issues for the general population, but high-altitude areas would feel the effects sooner. For those living in mountainous regions, oxygen levels would begin to drop to hazardous levels, forcing people to migrate to lower elevations. The disruption of global weather systems only adds to the chaos. Ocean currents, which once balanced temperatures between the equator and the poles, no longer function. The poles begin to cool rapidly as there's nothing to moderate the temperatures anymore. Glaciers and ice sheets, which once melted and refroze with the ocean currents, begin to expand, consuming the coastlines and regions around them. In contrast, equatorial regions become almost unbearably hot, facing relentless heat waves that push temperatures to record highs. People flee these regions en masse, migrating to cooler areas and creating a global population shift unlike any in history. As weather patterns grow unpredictable, agriculture becomes increasingly difficult. Crops that could once rely on steady seasonal rains now face erratic, often extreme conditions. Desperate for solutions, scientists and engineers work to create new systems of irrigation and water sourcing, but the scale of need is immense. Food becomes scarcer, and rationing becomes commonplace as economies adjust to the new reality. Without the stable temperatures that oceans once provided, traditional farming practices begin to fail, forcing humanity to rethink food production entirely. Vertical farming and greenhouse agriculture surge in popularity, but these solutions only cover a fraction of the world's needs. Food prices skyrocket, and access to resources becomes a central global concern. In this world of water scarcity, climate extremes, and shifting resources, society itself begins to change. People band together, creating communities around remaining freshwater sources, and cities abandoned by those fleeing harsh conditions quickly transform into ghost towns. Society organizes itself around new essentials: water access, temperature control, and food production. The vanishing of the oceans has reshaped the world entirely, forcing humanity to face the challenge of survival in a transformed and unforgiving landscape. With the ocean floor exposed and left dry, the Earth's crust undergoes a series of massive and immediate shifts. Oceans once provided weight and pressure on tectonic plates, creating stability across vast regions. Without this pressure, tectonic plates begin to shift unpredictably, giving rise to violent earthquakes in areas that were once calm. Major fault lines destabilize, triggering seismic activity that ripples through continents. Cities located near tectonic boundaries, like California's San Andreas Fault or the Pacific Ring of Fire, become unstable, experiencing earthquakes more frequent and severe than ever before. Some of these tremors even create gaping fissures, with huge sections of land beginning to sink or crack. The volcanic landscape of the Earth also transforms in dramatic fashion. Pressure changes lead to the awakening of dormant volcanoes, and new eruptions spew ash and magma across the continents. Volcanoes that have slept for centuries now explode, blanketing the atmosphere with ash that filters sunlight and makes breathing even harder. This layer of volcanic ash lingers, turning the skies an eerie gray and leading to what scientists call a volcanic winter. Without oceans to moderate temperatures, Earth cools dramatically as sunlight struggles to break through the thick haze. Regions that were once warm and lush turn bleak and frozen, and agricultural areas face extreme challenges as sunlight and warmth become scarce resources. Meanwhile, ecosystems on land are rapidly unraveling. Animals that once depended on coastal waters for food, such as seabirds, bears, and numerous other species, find themselves with no food sources. Inland species, too, feel the effects, as ecosystems everywhere collapse without the ocean's contribution to the water cycle. Trees and plants that relied on humidity and consistent rainfall start to wilt and die. Forests, which used to be lush and green, turn dry and barren, leaving once thriving ecosystems in shambles. Without ocean-fed rivers to sustain them, even freshwater lakes and streams begin to dry up, leading to the extinction of many freshwater species, The release of methane from the ocean floor compounds these issues further. Methane, a powerful greenhouse gas, was once trapped under layers of ice and sediment in the deep sea. Now exposed to the air, it seeps into the atmosphere in massive quantities, fueling rapid climate change and accelerating Earth's transition to a chaotic, unstable climate. The sudden increase in greenhouse gases makes the remaining weather patterns even more extreme, with intense heat waves followed by frigid, volcanic-induced winters, making survival a challenge for all life on Earth. At the same time, newly exposed land areas that were once oceanic depths are now vast, barren deserts. These stretches of desolate landscape are devoid of soil or nutrients, making them inhospitable to most forms of life. Harsh winds blow across these dry plains, creating massive dust storms that can travel for hundreds of miles, further polluting the air and making it difficult for any remaining vegetation to survive. These dust storms, fueled by the lack of moisture and the planet's increasing temperature fluctuations, contribute to the already dwindling air quality, filling cities with fine particles and creating health hazards for humans and animals alike. As the harsh landscape reshapes itself, even the smallest creatures suffer. The collapse of ecosystems forces insects and small animals to migrate in search of resources, which disrupts food chains that were once stable. Invasive species, driven by desperation, spread into regions they once avoided, crowding out native plants and animals. Pests, now unregulated by their natural predators, grow in numbers and damage crops and any remaining vegetation. Without the natural buffers provided by the ocean, nature's checks and balances dissolve, leaving a fragile, barely functioning web of life that struggles against the ever-increasing odds. In this turbulent new world, humans are forced to adapt in ways that once seemed unthinkable, facing the unprecedented challenge of surviving on a land that has lost its oceans, stability, and balance. As humanity grapples with the staggering consequences of a world devoid of oceans, survival becomes an everyday battle. Societies that once thrived along coastlines now face the grim reality of desolation and scarcity. Major cities, which were once bustling centers of trade and culture, transform into stark reminders of a lost era. The thriving economies, built on fishing, tourism, and maritime trade, collapse as resources dwindle and shipping routes become non-existent. The vibrant coastal communities that depended on the ocean's bounty suffer immensely, forced to confront an uncertain future. With the ocean gone, access to clean drinking water becomes one of humanity's greatest challenges. Freshwater sources rapidly deplete as lakes and rivers dry up, leading to severe water shortages. The struggle for this vital resource leads to desperation and conflict among communities. People are forced to adapt by devising new ways to collect and store water, but even rainwater becomes increasingly rare due to the disrupted climate. With no ocean to fuel the water cycle, regions experience severe droughts that last for months or even years, making it nearly impossible to grow crops or sustain livestock. Agriculture faces a monumental crisis. Farmers once relied on rich, moist soil, nourished by ocean breezes and rain brought by the water cycle. Now, with soil depleted and conditions dry, crops fail. Food scarcity turns into famine, pushing communities to the brink. The global food supply chain breaks down as imports and exports collapse, leading to widespread malnutrition and starvation. Governments scramble to find solutions, but their efforts are hampered by the rapidly changing landscape and political unrest driven by competition for dwindling resources. To cope with this unprecedented situation, people are forced to innovate. They turn to technology in an attempt to create artificial sources of water. Desalination plants are built in the hopes of extracting moisture from the now dead ocean beds, but the energy demands of such technology are staggering, requiring resources that are increasingly hard to come by. Communities band together to implement drastic water conservation measures, sharing knowledge on sustainable practices and rainwater harvesting techniques. Even the most remote locations attempt to harness every drop that falls, but the continuing extreme weather events create challenges that threaten these efforts. In the midst of this chaos, humanity faces a psychological toll. The loss of the ocean, a source of beauty and inspiration, sends shockwaves through cultures and societies worldwide. Artists, writers, and musicians grapple with expressing the grief of a world that has changed so drastically. Mental health issues rise as people experience anxiety, depression, and despair, struggling to reconcile their memories of vibrant ocean life with the stark realities of their current situation. The connections to nature, once taken for granted, become a poignant reminder of what has been lost. Social structures begin to shift as communities adapt to their new environment. People are forced to leave their homes in search of areas with better resources, leading to mass migrations. Some once thriving urban centers become ghost towns, while others experience an influx of those seeking refuge. This creates tension as competition for remaining resources intensifies, leading to conflicts and the breakdown of social order in some regions. Communities that come together out of necessity often find strength in unity, fostering new relationships that transcend previous divisions. In this harsh new reality, humanity's resilience is put to the test. Many individuals step forward as leaders and visionaries, rallying communities to forge new paths for survival. Cooperative farming initiatives emerge, encouraging collective efforts to restore some semblance of agricultural stability. Grassroots movements spring up, focused on environmental restoration and finding innovative ways to thrive without the ocean's resources. As people unite in their shared struggles, they rediscover the importance of community, cooperation, and sustainable living. Ultimately, the world without oceans becomes a stark reflection of humanity's impact on the planet. The disappearance of the oceans serves as a sobering reminder of the delicate balance that sustains life. As societies confront the reality of their new environment, they also recognize the urgent need to change their relationship with nature. Lessons learned in this harsh new reality prompt a global awakening, fostering a deeper appreciation for the interconnectedness of life on Earth. As we consider the possibility of living in a world without oceans, it sparks crucial conversations about our responsibilities toward the environment. The ocean, once taken for granted, becomes a symbol of resilience and hope, a call to action to protect and restore the delicate ecosystems that sustain life. The journey forward is uncertain, but humanity's capacity for adaptation, creativity, and collaboration holds the potential to shape a future that honors the lessons of the past while striving for a more sustainable world. So what do you think? How would you cope in a world without oceans? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's explore together the importance of preserving our planet's precious ecosystems before it's too late.